Hi there, Miss Barber here. Welcome to your first Math 1580 video lesson. The lesson video is the class lecture counterpart for an online course. Print the student notes, attend lecture, which means watch the videos, and take your notes. Let's get started. The first unit we cover is called Voting and Apportionment. As citizens of a free society, we have both a right and a duty to vote. The political, social, financial, and environmental choices we make in elections can affect every aspect of our lives. However, voting is only part of the story. So what's math got to do with voting? That's the second part. Methods for counting our votes lies at the heart of the democratic process. Let's begin with 13.1 called Voting Methods. Our first lesson will look at what is called the preference ballot.
The preference ballot allows you to rank your preferences for winner in an ordinal manner. Ordinal means by order.
Example 1. Refer to the 37 preference ballots provided on the following page of your student notes. Part A. Organize the information to include the number of each place vote each candidate receives on every ballot and preserve the order of every ballot. Here we go. Here are the first 3 rows of the ballots. The first one says ABCD, so let's write ABCD and put 1 tally mark. The second one says BDCA, so let's write BDCA and write 1 tally mark. The third ballot, ABCD, that's another one. CBDA, let's write that down. Put 1 tally mark. The next one is BDCA. Put a tally mark where that belongs. Next one, CBDA. So let's put a tally mark with that corresponding list. And then ABCD, another one of those. And then we have another BDCA. Let's count up the second row. We start with CBDA. Put a tally mark for that. ABCD. CBDA, that's another one. And then DCBA. That's a new one, so let's write that down. And put a tally mark. We have another ABCD. One more ABCD. The next one is CBDA. And the last ballot on the second row is ABCD. Now let's go to the third row of ballots. We start with CBDA. Put a tally mark for it. Then DCBA. Put a tally mark for that one. CBDA. That's another one. ABCD. DCBA. Next one's another DCBA. Then we have a CBDA and another CBDA. Let's continue to tally up the ballots. We're at the last 2 rows. I see a DCBA, ABCD, DCBA again, CBDA, ABCD. Next one is The next one is DCBA, then BDCA. We have another ABCD. Now to the last row, we have a CDBA. Ooh, we haven't had one of those before, so let's write that as a column and give it a tally mark. Then we have an ABCD, another ABCD. We have a DCBA. We had one of those, so put another tally mark there. And the last one is another ABCD. Have 14 ABCD ballots, 10 CBDA ballots, 8 DCBA ballots, 4 BDCA ballots, and 1 CDBA ballot. Let's put that information on the preference ballots table. To make a preference ballots table, the upper left-hand corner I'll call number of votes. And then we had a first choice, a second choice, a third choice, and a fourth choice. There were 14 ballots that had A as the first choice, B as the second, C as the third, and D as the fourth choice. We had 10 ballots that had C as the first, B as the second, D as the third, and A as the fourth. 8 ballots that had the order D, C, B, A. 4 ballots, the order was B, D, C, A, and we also had 1 ballot whose order was C, D, B, A. How many voted? That would be the total of all of the entries along the top. So that would be 14 plus 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 1. It better be 37 since that was the number of ballots that were there. How many votes constitute a majority? Majority is more than 50%. So if there are 37 votes, 37 divided by 2 is equal to 18.5. That's the exact middle point. So we say that 19 votes constitute majority. Part D. How many voted in the order D, C, B, A? From the preference table, we see that 8. And finally, how many selected C as their first choice? On the second listed ballot, 10. And on the last listed ballot, 1. For a total of 11. Voting methods. Use the results of the previous election to determine a winner using each of the following voting methods. We'll start out with plurality. In plurality, the candidate with the largest number of first place votes wins. A appears to have 14. B has 4. C has 10 plus 1, which is 11, and D has 8. So the plurality winner is choice A. The plurality method violates which fairness criterion? We'll get to these in the next section, but I want us thinking about it already. It violates something called the head-to-head criterion. Borda count. In the Borda count method, the candidate with the highest count wins the election. To determine the count, we first assign point values to each place on the ballot. The last place candidate on each ballot receives 1 point. The next to the last place candidate receives 2 points, and so forth. For instance, if there are 4 candidates on a ballot, then the first place candidate would receive 4 points. The second place candidate, 3 points. The third place candidate, 2 points. And the fourth place candidate would receive 1 point. Once each ballot has been assigned point values, the points are added up and the highest score wins. That means we need to start with the preference ballot. Let's assign the points. First place, you get 4 points. Second place, every time that happens, candidate gets 3. Third place, 2. And the fourth place gets 1 point. Now we multiply those points with the number of ballots. For example, let's look at the column B, D, C, A. There are 4 of those ballots. In the first place, you got B, so 4 times 4 is 16. In the second place is D. You get 3 points for those, and you have 4 such ballots, so that's 12. In the third place is C. You get 2 points for those, and 4 ballots of those, so that's 8. And in the last place, you get 1 point, 4 ballots, so that's 4 points. Let's do that for the A, B, C, D ballot. That means each of the places we multiply by 14. First place, 14 times 4 is 56. 14 times 3 is 42. 14 times 2 is 28, and 14 times 1 is 14. Let's do that for the CDBA. There was only 1 ballot, so multiplying the places or the positions by the points in 1, you're going to have 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's count the CBDA. That means we're going to multiply each of those place points with 10. So we're going to have 40, 30, 20, and 10. And finally, let's add up the DCBA. I'm going to multiply first. So 8 times 4, 32. 8 times 3, 24. 8 times 2, 16. 8 times 1 is 8. So what do we do with this? We add up all the points A got. So if we tally up A got 56 on the first ballot, 10 on the second, 8 on the third, 4 on the next one, and 1 on the last one. 56 plus 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 1 is 79. Let's tally up all the points for B. On the first ballot, B got 42. On the second one, B got 30. On the third one, B got 16. On the next one, B got 16 again. And on the last one, B got 2. 42 plus 30 plus 16 plus 16 plus 2 is 106. Let's tally up the points for C. On the first one, C got 28. On the second one, C got 40. On the third, C got 24 points. On the next one, 8. And the last one, 4. 28 plus 40 plus 24 plus 8 plus 4 is 104. And finally, let's add up D. On the first, 14 points. The next one, D got 20 points. On the third one, D got 32. The next one, D got 12. And on the last one, 3. The sum of those numbers
is 81.
So who's the Borda Count winner? The one with the highest number of points is B. And the Borda Count method violates which fairness criterion? That criterion is called the majority criterion. Plurality with elimination. In the plurality with elimination method, if a candidate wins the majority of the votes, then the candidate wins. If no candidate wins the majority, then the candidate with the fewest first place votes is removed from the election, and the ballots that have already been cast are used to redo the election as if that candidate who was removed is no longer involved. If a candidate now has the majority, then that candidate is declared a winner. Candidates are removed until one of the candidates has a majority of the votes. So we'll begin with the preference table and we'll call that round 1. A has how many first place votes? 14. B has 4. C has the sum of 10 and 1, which is 11. And D has 8. There's no majority. Remember, majority means we need 19. That's just a little more than half. And so we're going to eliminate the candidate with the least votes. That would mean we eliminate B. B is now gone. And we'll do this again in round 2. Round 2. With the B's gone, now what's left is going to be A, and then we move up. So you've got C, D. Next we'll have C. B is gone, so move up the D and A. We're looking at the one with 8 of them. We'll have D, C, B is gone, so the next one is A. Then we have B is gone, so we'll move it to D, C, A, and the last one, again, we eliminate the B, so we'll have C, D, and A remaining. Now let's count. First place votes row, A has still 14. Now C still has 10 plus 1, that's 11. And D now has 8 plus 4, that's 12. We still haven't reached that majority number of 19, so we need to eliminate the one with the least votes. That would be C. So we will go another round, but this time with C eliminated. Now we're down to 2 candidates. Round 3. With C now gone, we have A and D remaining. D and A, D, then A, D, then A, D, then A. So A has 14 votes and D has the rest of them. That would be 23. And so the majority winner is D. So who is the plurality with elimination winner? That turns out to be D. And plurality with elimination violates a fairness criterion called the monotonicity criterion. We are now on to our fourth and final voting method that we'll consider. It's called the pairwise comparison. In the pairwise comparison method, each set of candidates are considered two at a time as if they were the only candidates in the competition. For each comparison, if one of the candidates has a majority of the votes, the winning candidate gets 1 point for that comparison and the other candidate gets 0. If there is a tie between candidates in a comparison, they each get half a point. The candidate with the most points wins the election. This election has 4 candidates. That means we need to have an A versus B, an A versus C, and an A versus D. That's 3 head-to-head so far. We also have a B versus C, B versus D, and finally a C versus D. We will have 6 pairwise comparisons. Pairwise comparisons starting with A versus B. Let's just go ahead and have A and B. On the first ballot, A wins, so A gets all 14 points.
On the remaining ballots, A is in last place.
And so B would get 10 points for the second, plus 8, plus 4, plus 1. So the competition is 14 to 23. B wins, so B gets plus 1. Let's do the next competition, A versus C.
A and C.
On the first ballot, A wins, gets 14. On the remaining 4 ballots, A loses, it's in the last place, so C will get 10, plus 8, plus 4, plus 1. So the competition is 14 to 23. C wins, so C gets a point. We'll do A versus D. We got A versus D. On the first ballot, A wins, so A gets 14. On the remaining 4 ballots, A loses. It's in the last place, so D will get all of the other points, 10, plus 8, plus 4, plus 1. So it's 14 to 23. D wins, so D gets a point. Now we've done pairwise with A and everything else. Let's go to B versus C. We've got B against C. On the first ballot, B is above C, so B gets 14. On the second ballot, C is above B, so C gets the 10 points. On the third ballot, C is still above B, so C gets the 8 points. On the next ballot, B is above the C, so B gets the 4 points. And on the last ballot, C is above the B, so C gets 1. So B has a total of 14 plus 4, or 18 points, and C has a total of 19. So here C wins, so C gets that point. Let's continue. Now we pit B with D. B and D. On the first ballot, B is ahead of D, so B gets 14 points. On the second ballot, B is still ahead of D, so that 10 points go to B. On the third, D is ahead of B, so D gets the 8 points. On the fourth, B is in first place. So from the fourth ballot, B gets 4. And on the last one, D is ahead of B. So D gets the 1 point. Then the count becomes 28 to 9. And so here B wins, and B gets the point. And we've got one final pairwise comparison left to do. So let's do C versus D. C versus D. On the first ballot, C wins. It's all 14. On the second ballot, C wins again. C gets all 10. On the third ballot, D is ahead of C, so D gets 8 points. On the fourth ballot, D is ahead of C, so D gets 4. And on the last ballot, C is in first place, so C gets that 1 point, and the score ends up being 25 to 12. C has more, so C gets the 1 point. Let's tally up the points. A doesn't win a single pairwise comparison competition. B has 1, 2 wins. C has 1, 2, 3 wins. And D has 1. So who is the pairwise comparison method winner? C. And the pairwise comparison method violates a fairness criterion that is called the irrelevant alternatives criterion. So this is interesting. Depending on the voting method we used, 4 candidates, 4 different winners. So something to think about. Who won?